Hey everyone, welcome to my second weekly stream. The first one went really well. I'm glad. I think everyone seemed to enjoy it for the most part. Didn't hear any major complaints. So I'm just going to wait for a little minute just to wait and see if anyone actually wants to come join me here because that would be a lot of fun. But as always, this is going to hello, welcome to the live stream. But this is going to be covering manga, novels, and everything in between, basically. Not that there's much in between to talk about. Hi, Lasagna. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for popping in. I hope you enjoy it. But there's a lot of books here. I don't know how I was able to read so much this week. I think it was a mixture of being the Monday was a public holiday, and then throughout the week, I kind of really wanted to get a lot of stuff done, a lot of stuff read. There's some library stuff that's due sort of relatively soonish, and then there's some books that I've been meaning to read and finish for a while. One that I actually started ages ago and then finally got around to finishing. So I'm going to get straight into it. The first one's a novel, so hopefully that will allow some people to come in and not miss something that they're super duper interested in about. But so the first book that I read this week was my very first. Hi, that manga kid. Welcome to the stream. But the first one I got was, or that I read, I should say. I've had this for a while. This is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. This is one of her more recent young adult contemporary fiction books. If you're not familiar with Alice Oseman, I actually was introduced to her works via her webcomic, which is Heartstopper, or Heartstoppers, something along those lines, which is really wonderful. Hi, Aisha. Thanks for popping in. But this is the first of her novels that I read. She started as a novelist. I think Solitaire is her first book. I can't really remember because I haven't read any of the other ones. But this one, I don't know why I picked this one up or read this one before her other stuff. All of her novels are sort of loosely interconnected. A lot of the characters go to one of either two high schools in Hiren. I hope your internet gets better. Mine's not fabulous, so we know that I have problems anyway. So hopefully this will work out for everyone. But so her books, as well as her webcomic, a lot of the characters kind of intermingle briefly. They have reference to and they talk about characters that are related to them or go to the same schools or have classes with them or whatever. So this one is Radio Silence. This is about a high school girl who is 16, who befriends. Well, she's like Miss Brainiac. She's the head girl. I should probably mention this is all of her books, all of her stuff is set in England. So she's the head girl at her particular school. The year before her original school that she was going to, like, there had been a fire or something, so she had to move schools, and she and a lot of the other girls, because I think it was an all-girls school, had to go to one of the other academies in the area. But so she has kind of a tumultuous relationship with, or non-friendship, I should say, with the head boy at her school, Daniel. And she's Miss Perfect. She's always studying. She really loves to study. She really loves to get really good grades. And she has a dream of going to, I think it's Cambridge, for university. And so she's aiming for that. She's wanting to go into their English program there. But when she's not out in school, when she's not with her friends who don't really know her, she is like a real kind of nerdy introvert. It's very of its time, for one. There's a lot of reference to Tumblr. There's a lot of reference to fandoms, stuff like that. But she's a huge fan of a particular podcast called universe city. She loves it. It's a sci-fi kind of interesting mystery in the sort of style of Welcome to Night Vale type of podcast, but she's been really interested in it. And she discovers that her next door neighbor, like across the road, he's actually the one who is in charge, like has created this podcast. And unbeknownst to either of them, he reaches out to her to do art for the podcast, and she's like, oh my god, yes. I'm a big fan. She's done all this art on her Tumblr already, and they become friends. And it's not, I like it a lot because it's not a romance, it's a friendship. There is romance aspects to it. It's very queer, like a lot of Alice Oseman's stuff is. You have a lot of different varied representation. If that's something that interests you, our main character is biracial. We have an asexual character. We have just various shades of queer characters throughout her whole like universe of stories, including obviously Heartstoppers, Solitaire. I can't remember her other one that she wrote, but this is the first of her novels. I really liked it. It was a little bit, some of the like relatable teen, like I'm just a normal nerdy girl who just spends all night on Tumblr and does all this, is kind of cringy but incredibly accurate to that age and that mindset. So I'm not going to fault it for that, but it does kind of date it a little bit. It feels a little bit more like, this probably came out 2016-ish. When did this come out? Yeah, 2016. It feels like a 2016 referencing. Especially because this is prior to sort of the fandom exodus of Tumblr. But yeah, so it's about Francis. There's another character in like one of the other books called Francine, so that's maybe why I get it confused. But Frances, she's really interesting. I think the growth that she and Aled have over the course of the series is really strong. And yeah, I've been meaning to actually read some of Oseman's books for a long time, and this is the only one of her novels that I own, but I do hope to pick it more. A lot of focus on the stress of like that final year of high school and not being sure about what you want to do. And even if you have like, you think you have a goal, like you have a dream and you've wanted to do this forever, that sometimes you grow up and you realize that maybe you're just wanting to do that because it's expected of you. Warnings for abusive parents, not Frances, thankfully, but yeah, there is some very emotional manipulation here. But also really great parent figure and some really great friends as well. I think it's a solid little book, especially if you are wanting some contemporary YA stuff with, you know, a pretty solid cast. And no, I'm not going to say it's a fun time. It's a pretty hard hitting read, but it's easy. Like I got through this in one day. It's not super duper long. It's really easy to read. Very digestible might be the right word. So yeah, first thing I read this week was that. Been meaning to pick it up and read it for ages. I've owned it for a while, but because I finished one book in my personal library, I decided to read, or like I mentioned last week, hey Bizarre, welcome to the stream. Thank you for popping in. But after I finished one book from my personal library, I read a actual library book that I borrowed. The next one is like with last week, maybe a little bit expected. Another Discworld book. This one is Feet of Clay. This is the 19th novel in the series. It's one related to the City Watch, so sort of the police force of this fantasy town, city, whatever you want to call it. There's been a mysterious murder and nobody quite knows what's going on, who did this, whatever else. But whilst they're trying to figure out who has murdered these couple individuals, golems, who are, clay brought to life, seen as sort of a secondary class. They're not seen as alive, human, real. Like, they're seen as a tool. But a couple of them who are working in some of the larger factories, some of the larger industries, basically start committing suicide, and nobody knows why that is. And they're leaving this whole like apology letter. And so, yeah, it's an like with all the Pratchett stuff. Obviously, it's a fantasy, but it is very, very sharp wit, very, very sharp satire about, the complexities of whether or not tools that we interact with, we see like the personification of tools, and also like what makes something human. Is it the consciousness? Is it the self? Or is it, a living, breathing body? Obviously there's thank you, Bizarre. I that's how I keep on top of my to read pile of books that I actually own versus the ones that I want. But also a very, not, I wouldn't really call it a slavery allegory, but you could like paint it with a pretty heavy handed brush of that. I think golems and any sort of like second class tool element in a fantasy thing you can take with the slavery lens. But also for this book in particular, it's very much about expectations for the future generations, and how the heaviness and the weight, literal weight, and stress of those expectations can impact those expectations are put upon. It was really, really good. It's probably one of the first novels in Discworld that were introduced to golems and like the concept of them, because some of the later books, they're in a very different position to where they are in this book, and so it's an evolution throughout the course of the series. But yes, it's one of the earlier City Watch or Guards books as well, which Guards is the first City Watch book, which I think is like 6th or 7th of the whole series. I don't remember. But yeah, great book, especially again if you like Pratchett, if you like Discworld and you haven't picked it up or haven't read it, give it a shot. It's pretty great. And it's funny, like it's very funny. Next is some manga, library manga. Again, continuation from some of the stuff that I was reading last week. I have the next 3 volumes of Ao Haru Ride, which is 789. So we've got 7 with our main character, Futaba? Yeah, Futaba. And then our main like male rival character, Yuta. And then our main like actual male love interest character. What is it? Ko. So yeah, I mean, like with the other volumes in this series, it's pretty overwrought high school drama, romance about a girl a girl and a boy who used to like each other in middle school. Still, they grew up apart. Well, they were separated through mysterious like circumstances. Reunite in high school. Both very different, but both ultimately still have feelings for each other. But we're not going to communicate that. We're not actually going to tell the person that we like them. So much so that another guy has been able to ask said girl out on a date, and because of miscommunication, she's like, sure, I will date you because I need to get over this guy because he doesn't like me because of other reasons. He's just denying that we're in love. And it's just, again, high school melodrama, sort of exactly what you expect from Iosaki Saka stuff. But yeah, not like, it's not terrible. It's exactly what you sign up for when you get one of these books or one of these titles. Not my favorite style of shoujo, as I mentioned last time, but fun, and it's definitely like worth reading if your library has it, or if you want to pick it up digitally or something. It's not one that I'd want on my shelves to be able to reread, because I don't have time for all of these whiny teenagers. And like we talked about last week, Toma is, I don't want to say a better option, but he is a sweeter person, and sort of like a more genuine guy, more open about communication, about his feelings, all that good stuff. So technically he is much better boyfriend material, but that is true bizarre. Like when you are a teenager, everything's like such a big deal, and we do have secrets, and like you never want to tell, you know, the people that you like, your crush, that you like them, because what if they find out? Whoa, and then everyone laughs at you, and all that hubbledy like just stuff. But it's frustrating when two characters who are presumably friends and who have said they're friends, and admit they're friends and hang out together all the time, cannot have a conversation without like just not talking about like anything that they want to talk about. They're just like make so many assumptions, and I'm like, you guys hang out literally all of the time. Do you just what? Like, I don't know, man. How about you just like talk to each other on and make sure that everything is clear, and not just like assume that they mean it in a different way, or that whatever. Just they have kissed, they have basically told each other they like each other, but then no, we're gonna forget all that because another girl is like, oh no, I need help and I still like him, and he's going to choose me because I'm more tragic, and he's a dumbass because he does. No, he doesn't choose her, but he's like, no, I can't abandon her, and so I need to help her because I am such a good. I've gone through the same thing and I can't leave her alone. I'm like, oh, like I understand. I understand it's hard when you're a teen. I was a teen. My life was hard, or I thought my life was hard. And it's rough. It's rough losing a parent, and it's rough going through a divorce, and it's rough like having to change schools. But and they do acknowledge it, like when they're together, those two, not this girl, but like the other girl and our main guy is together, he just is stuck in his past and like all of the guilt and everything that he had in his own past, which he was finally getting over. So it's not a healthy relationship there either. So I'm like, I feel like if you just wallow in it and you wallow with people who have, like, all you ever do is reminisce about it with people who have the same experiences, then you will never be able to get over that, or like come to accept that and move past it, which is what these kids need. Holy moly, they need that. But yeah, I mean, there's 4 more volumes. I think this is a 13-volume series. Last volume comes out from Shoujo Beat this month. I think this month. So yeah. I think this is all my library has up to volume 9, but like I'm not chomping at the bit to continue reading this. I'll just pick up or borrow more volumes once they're available. I might request to see if they can get them sooner, but otherwise, this might be the last time you see Ao Haru Ride for a while, just because I don't think my library has anything else for that series. Next is a manga that I actually own. This was from stuff that I got last month, September. And both this one and the next one is a debut, which is maybe more interesting to hear about. So this is a Tokyo Pop book, Mi Tagawa's The Fox and Little Tanuki, which was a manga that when it got licensed, I don't think anyone had heard of. Like, nobody knew what this was. Are there any high school relationships that are like healthy though? I I mean, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are. Like, I'm sure not everyone just lives a life of drama. There are 7 billion people in this world. Someone must have a drama-free teen experience, at least when it comes to their love life. Who knows? Anyway, The Fox and the Little Tanuki is about a fox, obviously, who for as like a spiritual punishment for being bad, basically, and terrorizing the spirit world and the world of the gods, has to look after and raise a little baby tanuki to be a spirit messenger, guide, associate, whatever, be a servant to the gods. It's really cute. I mentioned this in my video that I posted the other day, but the animal art is like very Disney-esque. It reminds me of like, oh my gosh, if you could actually see it, like a Disney movie or a oh god, what is it? His name? I cannot remember. Like All Dogs Go to Heaven, like just very, animal expressiveness. I almost like I had to check because it's a manga and it's on like my anime list and all of that, but there was a time when I couldn't find it on any of those websites, and I was like, is this just like an English language manga that has been adapted and they took a Japanese name to be more legit, or is this like a Disney kind of I don't know. It doesn't feel like a Japanese manga. I don't know. That sounds weird. It's. I said this in the video the other day. It's definitely an all ages manga. If you have kids, it's a great one for them. Nothing too scary. Although there's a pretty creepy, like, evil badger that might freak him out, dragging our young chipper protagonist to the depths of his burrow. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those stories where it's like a grumpy old man has to look after a upbeat and sweet young child who's going to give him a whole new outlook on life and teach him the true meaning of family. And there's a hot, like, other fox lady who just kind of looks after them. She is living with them and makes their meals because, oh, even the animals gotta have gender roles. Yeah, okay. Where is she? She's white, so it's hard to see. There she is. Oh, if my camera would actually focus. Thank you. But yeah, so like hot fox, cute tanuki, other fox, really, really cute Zashiki Warashi, who is a little spirit. He's so sweet. What a cutie. You cannot see. I don't know how many volumes it is. I think it's only like 2 or 3 in Japan. I think it started being serialized in 2018, so it's not like super duper old. But I think it's been running for a little bit of time. If you want something sweet, if you want something kind of found family with a yokai, Japanese spiritual twist to it, then maybe pick it up. It's not like a must read. It's just fun, cute. As I said, good for kids, young people, maybe people who are into anthropomorphized animals, and not necessarily manga, because it doesn't really feel, I mean, it reads like a manga in direction wise, but it doesn't feel a lot like a more typical shonen or something. But yeah, pretty okay first little volume. Second volume I think just came out or is coming out in the next week or so. I don't know if I'm going to pick it up right away, but I will probably pick it up. This isn't, again, like a super duper high priority, but it was cute and I did enjoy it. So yeah, it was a little bit of a mystery when it was licensed, and it was a little bit of a mystery even when I bought it, but I was like, that looks cute and the premise is pretty cute, so it's probably going to be cute. And I wasn't let down in that respect. It was very cute. The other manga that I read from my personal collection that was a debut, which right after that one, because I wanted to read that and I wanted to read this next one, so I was able to talk about them for my actual like monthly pickup video, because I don't like to go into those videos not knowing what I'm talking about, especially when it comes to the debut stuff. So I also read Shinichi Fukura's Volume 1 of My Dress Up Darling, which is, oh my goodness, why is the light balance? Hey, Tayuya, welcome. I cannot, it is so bright. There you go. You you can barely see her, but she's cute. She's got her little finger going, ah. And so this is the story of a teenage boy who is really into Hina dolls. His grandpa is like an artisan. He makes Hina dolls. And he basically like fell in love not only with the dolls themselves, he thinks they're beautiful and like just gorgeous. He loves them. But also wants to be able to make them himself. But really, he's not that great at the face sculpting and all of that, the construction of the doll itself yet, but he is very good at making the miniature clothing. So he's very passionate about that, but because of that, he doesn't have any friends. Nobody understands his infatuation with this art type. You know, he doesn't, like, Hina dolls, you mean those weird like little dolls you see on the altars and so on? Okay, dude, whatever. But there's a girl in his class who he overhears. She's very popular. She's very likable. What's her name? Marin, who's this girl in the front. And she's recounting a story about how she was at like karaoke or bowling or something, and some hot guy was like, oh, those keychains on your bag, like that's from that one anime. Oh my god, that's so weird. Like, and laughed at her, and she just like totally shut him down. Like, why would you make fun of something that people enjoy? That's really lame, and you don't have a good personality and whatever. So she was very proud of her pastimes, and she's not afraid to hide her hobbies. She enjoys them, and she takes great pride in the fact that she does enjoy them, and she's not going to feel ashamed regardless of other people's opinions of them. And our main character, he's very much in awe of that, but also he kind of sees it as a product of being this beautiful, popular girl who has a lot of friends. She has the ability to kind of be herself without people judging her, which is not really the case a lot. I mean, it's kind of, sometimes it is the case, sometimes it's not. It depends on the person and the situation, but we all know that girls get judged very harshly on their pastimes by society. So maybe on an individual level, not so much like that would work, but overall, teenage girls never get taken seriously. Let's be real. But so this kid, he has to go into school to finish the clothes that he was making for these dolls because his sewing machine at home broke. He runs into this girl, and she discovers his interest in the Hina dolls, doesn't get weirded out by it, and actually she asks him to help her make her cosplay because she wants to cosplay her favorite character from Slippery Girls 2. What is the whole title? Something really, really inappropriate, because it is not just a visual novel or a computer game. It is an erg, and with very very questionable themes. It's like a humiliation, kink, erg. Saint Slippery's Academy for Girls, the Young Ladies of the Humiliation Club, Debauched Miracle Life 2. So that's her favorite game, and she wants to cosplay a character from that, and she can't get the cosplay quite right, and she's very particular about it, but with the help of this guy, she knows that hopefully she'll be able to be a more accurate cosplayer. They become friends, they get closer. Obviously, she really appreciates that he's able to do all of this for her. It's, it's a little bit raunchy, it's quite spicy, but also very funny. It toes that line of like hilarious, but not quite like inappropriate and uncomfortable. They feel like teenagers talking about teenager stuff, which can be very spicy and over the top sexual. And I would assume feelings start to build between these two. Very much an opposites attract relationship, but it's fun and it's sweet and the art is great. It has a really plush look to it. It does have some fan service, which you would expect, but nothing like too obscene or like in your face. I mean, we have scenes of our main character or our main female character in like a swimsuit and whatever, and like our main male character is obviously affecting him physically in ways, not when they're together, but like, he's not unaffected. She's a very attractive young girl, or young woman, I should say. They're the same age. But ultimately, like, he wants to become her friend and he wants to help her, and she's very appreciative of that. And you can see like both of their kind of weird interests molding together and then becoming better friends. And it's actually like really wholesome despite being also like kind of a not that explicit. It's not explicit. Like, it's not explicit. It does have like some TNA and some ecchi elements to it, but it's not like, I didn't feel gross reading it, if that makes sense. And like, these characters are talking about erg and humiliation kink and stuff, and I'm like, I mean, to be fair, 16-year-olds, that's pretty on point. And if you like good, accurate female design, then our girl is very sexy. Like, she actually is very human looking. If you could see, that's her in her bathing suit. And I mean, she got some thick thighs, and her halter neck swimsuit is doing a lot of work to keep the girls up. But they're both really likable, so I do actually think it's one that you should check out if it sounds interesting to you. So I read those manga. I took a break from manga for I think a day or so, just because I was like, well, I should read some books now, like some novel books. So I again finished a library book. So now it is time to read a novel from my actual collection. And so this time I read this one. I actually started reading a while ago, and I got like 150 pages into it. Yeah, ish. And finally finished it. I enjoyed it. I just put it down and like never got back to it. So this is A Natural History of Dragons, a memoir by Lady Trent by Marie Brennan. This is it's a fantasy story, but written in like a Victorian naturalist travelogue style. So it's written as a memoir of our character, Lady Trent. What is her name? Isabella. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I mean, basically think Victorian England, but dragons are real, but they're not very well studied. And so our main character, she has a real fascination for dragons and wervins and worms and all of these, dragon-esque fantasy creatures, but there's not a huge amount of understanding of them. Oh, I'm glad people have actually heard of this, because this was a recommendation given to me by one of my friends, non-manga tube friends. I've known her for a while, and we have kind of similar tastes. She recommended the series. There's 5 books in all, and then a sequel about her granddaughter. And so this is basically her recounting as memoir her very first interaction with kind of society and as a scientist. So in this book, she, as I said, she had a great fascination for dragons, which are not really the word that they use a lot of the time in this book. But because, women have their roles and this is old-timey England, it's not England. Like, it's a sort of parallel, not our world, but Victorian England. And so it's not very becoming for young women to be interested in science and to have a brain and to want to learn about stuff. So she kind of just does that in secret, and she has a real fascination for it. She ultimately very happily gets married to a guy who really appreciates that, and he also has a real interest in dragons, and he gets invited to a scientific expedition to one of the neighboring countries, basically to observe their dragons there, see if they can figure them out and learn more about them. And she joins her husband. She's like, please take me. And he's like, I would love to take you, but you have to convince the guy who's like actually funding this. And she's like, please take me. And like, you can come, but as the secretary. But of course, she's like the most valuable member. And she goes there to kind of be the secretary, the documentarian, to sort out all the notes of the men who are doing the real science, who are doing the real like work. And as the artist as well, they're drawing the anatomical models of whichever dragon they may come across. It's also kind of a look into, I mean, it's really written in the naturalist style. Whereas, like, oh yes, we went to an exotic country, and oh, the locals, all of their culture and their customs, well, not like back home where we drink tea and eat crumpets. Like it nails it. It nails it. But like, there's a larger mystery to this one. It's not just that, and it really picks up in the second half. Like, I wasn't not enjoying it at the beginning, but it really does pick up in the second half, and you understand like why these creatures are so important to this woman. And then we come into it with the understanding that she has, in her lifetime and in her own right, become basically the expert on dragons. Like, she's written everything, she's observed all of them. She's discovered so much about their physiology and their habits and their behaviors and all these sorts of things. So we know that she's the expert, but in this book, she's going into it, she's reflecting on, Isabella is like you can flip-flop on her, but I do think ultimately at the end of the first book, she has grown a lot. Like, you can see how she went from a kind of naive young girl, who was interested in sparklings and like chased a wolf and whatever, to what we presume is a much older woman in her late stages of life, reflecting on her life. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading 2, which I think is I don't know, something to do with, oh God, what are they called? The dragons that live in the water. I don't remember. And I can't see from here. The Tropic of Serpents. That's what it's called. But yeah, I do actually own all 5 of the books, so I want to actually get around to reading them all. So hopefully I can read them sooner rather than later. But yeah, if you're interested in, that sort of scientific, naturalist, old-timey book, and a faux fantastical setting, then check it out. And then mixing it up from all of the fantasy that I've read this week, I had finished one of the books from my library. So from my personal library. So I've got another library book to read, library novel to read. So sci-fi, this is the 3rd in the series. There's a 4th one coming out, but it's not out yet. So this is the most recent one. And this is Becky Chambers' Record of a Spaceborne Few. I really enjoy this series a lot. This is from the Wayfarer series. The first one is a long trip to a small angry planet. The second one is a closed and common orbit. There's the third one. Fourth one, I can't remember what the title is. It's not out yet, so forgive me. But so if you're not familiar, Becky Chambers writes, these are all like in a series, but they don't follow the same characters. Similarly to the Alice Oseman book that I mentioned before, you have mentions of characters who are like in other books, and they kind of intermingle, but it doesn't follow the same group through multiple books, or at least it hasn't yet. And I think there's only going to be 4 books, so far there's been no huge real crossover. This is the third one in the story. We're following a bunch of all of the books are also POV, so multiple points of view. Each chapter is dedicated to a different character's point of view, obviously. So this follows a whole bunch of characters who live upon one of the Exodus ships. So this is a sci-fi future in where, alien races interact and have coexisted for millennia. Humans escaped Earth because we fucked it up, basically. But now it's been long enough that humans can actually go back to Earth. There are some living on Earth, but they're crazy naturalists. They're the weirdos. Generally, the human population lives in space amidst their alien brethren, as it were. Really, I appreciate it because it actually utilizes diversity with all of these alien species. They're not just like humans with a different color paint slapped on them. All of their culture and events and biology and everything is totally different. And the first book, they make the main character, or one of the main characters, she's a sensitivity kind of person. She's done all the sensitivity training because you can't act one way, interact with certain alien races because that might be rude, and then do this and whatever else. So I like it a lot. But this follows a bunch of characters on one of the few large Exodus ships, and those ships kind of persist as human colonies, basically. So they're people and generations of people who never found their way planet side. They never established themselves within another planet. They just live within the bubble of the ship, the spaceship that they escaped Earth on. So they have a very controlled environment. And because of this, they've also have a very communal society, socialist perhaps, where everything is done by bartering and trading. There's no real monetary system. Everyone has to do the rough jobs, and then you can choose what major job passion you want to go to. And so there's also tensions with that setup with the larger galactic world, because they do have monetary systems and all that and whatever. So, and within these spaceships, there really is only humans. There's no other alien life amidst them. This is maybe the weakest of the 3, but that's not to say it's bad. I did enjoy this. It does focus a lot on how humanity and humans have clung to the familiar from Earth, even though they are multiple generations outside of ever seeing Earth and ever, having lived socially on Earth. Obviously, it also has counterbalances like the utopian sort of communist, socialist society versus a more general you know, what we see a lot of as more consumer based. Like, yeah, I mean, if you've read The Dispossessed, it kind of has a similar The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin. I should clarify. They have kind of a similar thread in that regard of like, is capitalism bad? Is utopia like communism, socialism, perfect utopia? Are they both kind of need to meet in the middle? Is there one that's truly bad, or are they both systems that can be exploited, and that sort of thing? So yeah, we have one of our characters is, so a lot of these characters is prefaced that one of the other ships in this pre-existing fleet suffered a major accident which led to the deaths of like hundreds of thousands of people 4 years before, or 4 standards before. And so all of these characters, for the most part, have experienced this and how it's impacted them in their lives and kind of threatened their safe existence. So we have one character who is basically a mortician. She works at the morgue, or she work at the morgue. We have another character who is like a teenager. He's not quite sure what he wants to do, and he's just like totally bored with the whole, like, everything about society and his family and the expectations, and he just finds life on the ship just so boring. There's also a mother of 2 kids. She's kind of a scrapper. She helps like rebuild things and fix things. And she's kind of one of the crossover characters because her brother is one of the main characters in the first book. So you see a little bit of crossover. There's also a kind of a archivist or librarian character who has welcomed and invited one of her colleagues who is from a different alien race. So she's invited her colleague to come like observe life on the ship. And so it's her, being a good host and taking this very alien around and teaching them, or her, what life is like on the ship. Who else? There's also like a planet-born human who goes to these ships as a chance to like remake himself, find a better life, learn more about like a society he's never really felt part of, and wants to like find his place in this utopia where everyone is equal and we all share the same stuff and it's all a big community. And if you there's an interesting idea that like whoever lives in the house or their pod or whatever, like the hive, hex, that's what it's called. When you are assigned a hex, or if you move into a hex, that last name becomes your last name. So when people get married, like whoever moves into whichever's hex, that becomes their last name. Or if they move together to a new place, they get a whole different last name. So you see like multiple generations of the same family within the same house, basically. But it means that newcomers can just kind of automatically be brought into the system. It's really interesting. It's really good. And personally, I'm not a huge sci-fi person. I didn't grow up with a lot of sci-fi. My parents hate sci-fi. So I brought up kind of bias against it. But more recently, I've been reading stuff that I kind of know that I will enjoy. And Becky Chambers, and with the first book, was, hi, storage shelves, welcome. But yeah, Becky Chambers was one that was recommended. I'd seen in like someone else asking about sci-fi because they weren't fans of sci-fi, and a lot of people championed this series, and it's really good. It's really, really good. Even if you're not a sci-fi fan, I think it does a lot of really interesting stuff. Yeah, so check it out if you are given the chance. Okay, so then I read more manga. more manga that I own. So I continued reading. Oh my god, if I could bring it over, Inuboku SS. So I have volume. Oh my gosh, volume 3, which you cannot see, but it has Yukiona and I can never remember what this yokai name is. It's the one that's just like a piece of fabric. Volume 3, volume 4, and volume 5. So, okay, so we talked about last time how I watched the anime and wasn't super impressed with, like, it wasn't one that was like my favorite, and I wasn't really invested in the relationship between our main characters, their romance. So I was just like, mainly, especially because she's 15 and he's 22, and like, that's not. I mean, they are like partially supernatural. So what you gonna do? And also, we also learned that they're basically just reincarnations of the same soul over and over and over again. So depending on what iteration of this reincarnation, they're basically just what even is age? Who cares about age? Because we've lived literally centuries just in different iterations of ourselves. We look exactly the same. We have the exact same name, and our personalities are the same. Are we truly the same person, or are we different? Who knows? We don't know. But so volume 2, 3, and 4, a lot of that focused on our main characters. At the end of volume 2, it's revealed that like he was the one that was sending her those lovely letters the whole time, and so they become closer and they start dating. Like, they are in a relationship, and then so it's just kind of like volume 3 has a lot of, like, I don't know, side story stuff. It was just kind of hijinksy, like, oh yeah, this is day-to-day stuff, and then yeah, they get together and they're dating, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I knew that was gonna happen, so that's fine. Volume 4, again, we start with just like day-to-day stuff, and we learn like more about our characters and their lives, and like, oh my gosh, they're yeah. But then some shit goes down. Some stuff happens. One of the characters is attacked. Most notably, it's this little girl, pink girl here, which you cannot see because my screen glares a lot. She gets attacked by like some spirit wolf so badly that she reverts to her yokai self and cannot change back. And she's a giant fucking skeleton. Like, you can't hide that, right? So they're trying to figure out what happened. And then it's revealed that it's like this grand plot of some guy who is also half or like partially Ayakashi, part yokai, a genetic throwback is what they call it. And he's been collecting all of these other genetic throwbacks to like come join him and become full yokais and whatever. And then they fight, and then our main male character, our Fox, who is like this devoted butler, far too old boyfriend for our main character, dies. He dies, and you're like, oh my god, oh shit. And then so last chapter is like people dying, a lot of people dying. Volume 5, 23 years later, holy shit, we are in a new timeline. We are in a new regeneration, and everyone else has like been reborn, right? So they still keep the age gap, which I'm like, ugh. But like, there's also a question of, because some of the characters don't remember their past lives, some of them do. One of them didn't ever die, so he's just been around for 23 years whilst everyone that he knew died and was reborn. I'm like, man, that's heartbreaking, dude. So now we have characters who are the characters that we know, but they're different ages, they're in different positions, they're doing different things in life. We have one of the characters who is an adult at the beginning, like early timeline, is now in middle school. We have one, the girl in pink. She's like 15 or whatever here. She's like in her 20s now. And so it literally, the first chapter of this is the first chapter. The first chapter of volume 5 is pretty much exactly the same as the first chapter of chapter 1, because it's our main character, Ririkia, or whatever her name is, Ririchio, moving into this apartment where all these genetic throwbacks live. And I'm like, oh my god. So like, they're not, some of them aren't classmates anymore, some of them don't even know. Also, like, I kind of laughed because her, what's it called, fiance, the guy that she's betrothed to, also, like, this one is another one that has a lot of like saucy jokes. Her fiance character, not the fox guy, he's like another genetic throwback dude. He's a super sadist, and he's always like making jokes about like, yes, my filthy slaves or whatever. Like, I don't know, like, just, you know, being totally inappropriate, just being super sadist to everyone. I posted a picture about it on Twitter about a personal massager that joke, or the usage of, like, totally flew over our main character's head, because she was just like, oh, that's useful. I'm like, oh my god, girl, that's not why he bought that souvenir. But so, but, and you're like, oh, he's like 12 now, or well, he's like 14, 15, because he's in the same class as her, and he's super short now as well. And you find out, no, he's just dumb as rocks. He's had to repeat the grade for 4 years, and is actually 19, but he's just an idiot and hasn't his growth spurt, so he's like teensy. I laughed, like, I did laugh. Again, it's like, it's a fun time if you don't take it too seriously. It's not like brilliant, but I did want to read it. I've heard good things about, again, plot twist, and like that idea of reincarnation and destiny and fate, and is your later reincarnation you, or is it someone else? And do you have to walk the same fate, and do you have to have the same relationship? I don't know. At volume 5, we're halfway through. I think it's really interesting that, like, Fujiwara actually did that and, like, basically reset the whole story. I don't know if that's a lot. I think it was something that would have always been planned, because it's been kind of foreshadowed. But yeah, I mean, I might not love it at the end of it, but it's something that is unique, if nothing else. But yeah, I mean, fair warning, the main character, or the main relationship, is, I mean, if you're into master vassal kind of, you know, master butler style of romance, in power imbalances, and then if that kind of counteracts the age gap power balance enough for you, I don't know, like, again, what is age when you've been reincarnated 400 times? But, you know, everyone's mileage may vary on it. It's not something I'm super keen about, and it's not something that, like, I ever enjoyed about the series, but I knew going into it that it had that, so I'm not, like, upset. It didn't, like, just surprise me with that either. So, you know, just as long as you know what you're reading going into, then I think you can have a pretty solid time. Next is, I only have 2 more things to talk about, so it has been a while talking. I'm sorry, guys, and I don't try to make these videos too long, but I do want to get through everything. But so the final book that I read, again, the prior book that I read was the library one, so this one was from my personal collection. This is a book that I actually bought on Monday from a secondhand, like, fundraiser book sale thing that we have here a couple times of the year. And this is kind of the sort of book that I pick up at those those book sales, because I'm a bit of a nerd. But this is Tom Bullow's Constantine. which is a historical fiction autobiography of. I need to check the name because I'm atrocious at remembering it. Oh my god. It is a fictionalized biography about Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, who is obviously a Russian, um, following his life. And if you're not familiar with who Tsiolkovsky is, he is basically the very first like rocket scientist. He was the first one to actually write sustainable and suitable idea for how humans could build rockets, go to space, survive in space, colonize space. A lot of his ideas were later utilized when the actual space race was going on, and even now to this day. So he was a Russian, obviously. He was born in the mid 19th century. And so this book is broken into three parts: his childhood, his sort of young adult life, a little bit later when he's a teenage or when he's a teacher, sorry, in his 20s, and when he gets married. And then there's a quite large time skip to the space, the space race itself, and 1965, the very first successful spacewalk, when man first was able to go into space outside of a shuttle, and survive and experience the world from orbit, which is like, okay, I'm a big space nerd. I need to clarify, this is my shit. Like, I picked it up because I knew I would like it. I like historical fiction. I like autobiography or biographies of like interesting people who other people might not find very interesting. But this is, I'm not going to say this is a brilliant book, but it is intriguing. It is interesting. I'm sure, like, it is biographical, so it does follow like actual events, but with a lot of artistic license, I'm sure. Our character, this Konstantin, he had scarlet fever in his childhood, which is why we focus a lot on that. He lost most of his hearing due to that, which is something that affected his whole life afterwards. We see the death of his mother. We see the breakdown of like his father and him not really ever doing very well in school, and then going to Moscow and attending the universities there. And he was completely self-taught. Like, he was not a good student and couldn't find a place anywhere. So all of his learning was self-taught. But he fell in love with mathematics. Through an extension of that, he fell in love with physics, and from that, mixed with his own, I guess, dreams and ambitions and wishes of like the awness of space, of the idea of going to space, he basically found and discovered and wrote algorithms and formula and all of these things that made space travel possible. He invented the idea of like the spacesuit. He invented the idea of like colonizing the moon. He invented the space elevator, or the idea of it at least. And it's incredible. Like, I'm a big nerd, so this was something that was like definitely going to appeal to me. It's super duper short. It was a quick read. I read it in a couple hours. And yeah, I mean, I love space. And it was so interesting reading about him and his life and how his life influenced how he saw the world. And it really is kind of the birth of a scientist and the birth of a scientific mindset, but also the creativity and the imagination that has to go with scientific invention and actually achieving things beyond humans' wildest dreams. It's really good. I haven't read anything from Tom Below before. Had never heard of this book, but I picked it up because I was like, oh, the cover looks pretty cool, and it was in like the biography section. So yeah, and also, okay, the other cool thing, so it has a slipcase, which is, it's actually like a paperback book, but it has a slipcover. But also, so the slipcover has cute art inside, which you can't really see, but yeah, okay. Yeah, see constellations and the moon and such. But also, it like, I don't know why, but it folds out like a poster. So it's got like, it's a full piece of artwork. I think that's really cool. I don't know, maybe that's kind of dorky, but I think that's really cool. Okay, yes, all right. This is the way that this is meant to go. So yeah, I mean, it was a blind buy from a book sale, and I'd never heard of it. I'd never heard of Konstantin must get the name right. Tsiolkovsky. I'd never heard of him, although he is, yeah, like the founder of rocket science and all of that. And it was an insight and I guess a humanization of a relatively prominent but also unknown figure within scientific development, in a humanizing way, but obviously trying to keep to the facts as well. It's probably not something that a lot of people are interested in reading, but if it sounds like your thing, maybe check it out. It was worth the $3 that I spent on it, at least. Although sometimes it was very obvious that a man was writing it. There's a lot of preoccupation about women and women's, how they look, and how certain parts of their body look, which is, but yeah, it was a good book, and I liked it a lot, and it was kind of what I wanted, so that's good. That's all the novels, so you don't have to suffer through any more of those. Thank you for your patience. One more thing to talk about. It's been over an hour, but it's only one more thing. So last thing I read this week was another library manga. This was the omnibus edition of Legal Drug, a drugstore with medicine and a danger, by Clamp. So this is a 3-in-1 by Dark Horse. Yeah, Dark Horse. Which is like, I've heard of Legal Drug. I was aware of it. It also has a sequel, Drug and Drop, because it's weird because I think that's finished in like 2003 or something. 2003, 2004, the original finished. It didn't finish. They just like stopped making it and went on a giant hiatus, as per usual, Clamp being Clamp. And then they were like, oh yes, we have a sequel coming, called Legal Drug and Drop or something. No, Drug and Drop. Drug and Drop. And I like, because they set up a lot of stuff, a lot of questions. Both of these young guys have like girls in their history that are important to them, and the secret backstories. And none of that is paid off because the plot of the main characters doesn't go anywhere. This is definitely like I don't want to say monster of the week, but it's it's kind of a. Anyway, so these two guys, both 17, both kind of at each other's throats in a not homoerotic way, except for always, because this is Clamp. They have like special abilities. One can see memories if he touches things, and then the other guy can break things through, I don't know, like mind powers, or I don't know. It's not clear, and nothing in Clamp is clear, so I don't have answers for you, and they probably do not have answers for you. But they work at, well, this guy who can see memory stuff, They picked him up off the street. He was passed out in the snow. And like, yes, come stay with us. And it's destiny that it's alluded to that there's a grander reason that he's been brought here. But the two of them work for a pharmacist who also seems to know everything that's going on. And so and his boyfriend or his partner, like I don't know anyone's names. There's also, like, per always in Clamp, some of the side characters like get a real close up, and it's like, oh my gosh, are we supposed to recognize these people? Because I do not. I have not read enough Clamp to recognize the crossover characters unless it's like someone really obvious, and these were not really obvious characters. That was that side characters that had nothing to do with the main story. But so they go on like odd jobs, odd special like supernatural jobs together, per their boss's invitation. He does it because he's like, I need money, because he ran away from home, I think, and the other guy's like looking for a girl, and we don't know like who she is in relation to him, except that she's important to him, and he has a backstory with the sister, but we're never going to find out what that's about unless you read the sequel, except for maybe there's like, I don't know, maybe I haven't read Drag and Drop, so I can't tell you yet. I think my library does have Drag and Drop though, so maybe I'll pick that one up, or pick it up, borrow it. I'm not gonna buy it because you know me and Clamp, we have a very tumultuous relationship. But yeah, so it's basically like, oh, go to this place, solve this mystery with your magic supernatural powers, and we tricked you, and it was you the whole time. And yeah. So it's a bunch of that. It's a bunch of that. You get no answers, as per usual. It's a bunch of higgledy-piggledy, like everyone's destined to everyone, but we don't know why. There's no answers, and it's very gay, which is like that. I mean, that's the plus. That's always the reason to read Clamp. But like, like, it wasn't bad, and I knew going in that this was a Clamp work, obviously. I knew what to expect. But I don't know, all of Clamp stuff is so highly regarded, and then half the time I'm like, how does anyone understand what's going on? Like, is it just an atmosphere thing? Do people love these weird waif boys and their tall, like, manly boyfriends so much that they will forgive anything? Perhaps that is the case. Also, like, okay, I'm not yeah, I'm not trying to be mean, but this guy, like, I don't know where his brain went, but like, he dumb. I mean, 17-year-old boys are gonna be dumb anyway, but like, he's like, oh, go catch some invisible fireflies, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna do that. How am I gonna catch invisible fireflies? And the guy's like, you'll figure it out. It's the full moon. So he goes and he's given a bottle of water, and he like puts it up to the moon, and he's like, oh my god, bug shadows all around me. What the hell? And I'm like, maybe it's all those invisible fireflies you're meant to be looking for. Fucking brains trust over here. It's like, I wonder what all this is. I'm gonna run away. How do I catch them? And then he drinks the water, and it goes into the water, but also goes into his body, because they're attracted to the water. Like, I'm sorry, but like, the boys, like, these two boys are 17. The pharmacist and his boyfriend, who's a guy who only wears sunglasses all the time, even when it's nighttime and it's inside, are adults. I presume. I don't know what is adult for Clamp, but oh my god, And like I can't ever tell any characters apart because they're all just the same. You got some twink, blonde twink with the stupidest haircut, and then and like the girliest eyelashes, like, oh, I'm so beautiful, but I'm also so dumb. And then you got Mr. Manly black hair, just being like, you're a fucking idiot to the guy. And I'm like, I mean, you're telling it like it is, but like, why? Clamp has literally two character types, two character designs, and they recycle them over and over again. But then they're like, hey, why don't we cross over every series we've ever done into a giant multi-universe like interlocking story, and we're gonna reference everything. But then you're like, I don't. You're like supposed to recognize who these people are, but they all look the same. And I'm like, I don't know. And I don't remember anyone's names because they're all dumb and I don't care about any of them. And it's always treated like, dun, 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 look, it's this person. And I'm like, I don't know what you want from me. I can't do this. I don't know who they are. Like, if it was Kobato or like Tsubasa or Shaoran or someone, then yeah, I'd fucking know who they are. But it's never them. It's always like some random one arc page character from fucking Clamp School Detectives, and you're like, who the hell? I don't. Why do I have to read every fucking thing that you've ever made to understand your inside joke reference? And oh my god. I'm not trying to disparage Clamp because I have a huge respect for them, and I mean, in all of their weirdness and all of their wackiness, they are living their real lives. Like, they're making the shit that they want to make. But like, I don't think they're making it for literally anyone else. And I feel like everyone's lying that they understand the Clamp verse. I just don't know how you understand the Clamp verse. It's Anyway. Anyway, so Legal Drug was fine. It was Clamp. I didn't have a bad time. Oh my god. Also, like the last oh my god. Okay. Classic Clamp. Gotta have a cross-dressing boy in what Chinese outfit, and classic Clamp. We're just gonna make it gay AF. We're going to have a literal wedding, but it's not a real, like, it's just a school wedding, but the haunting ghost is because the one other twink wanted to stay with the other manly dude but couldn't tell his feelings, but then they're actually in love, but they're going to graduate and he didn't want to be separated. I'm like, oh my god, it's the teen drama, but also with Clamp. I don't... Clamp is making me just the demons within me just disperse. Yeah, I mean, it was fine. It was okay. I didn't hate it. It's fine. I'm gonna probably read the second half, the sequel, which is also on hiatus. Thank you everybody in the comments who made sense of any of that. But yeah, I mean, if you're a Clamp fan, I'm sure you've already read it. You have a much stronger galaxy brain than I do, because I cannot keep all of the disparate Clamp parts apart, or together, perhaps. I don't think I will ever own a Clamp title unless they put out like really fancy collector's editions of Holic. And until that day, I'm not gonna own any Clamp. I've read plenty. Well, plenty. I've read this. I've read Cardcaptor Sakura. I've read Kobato. Pardon me. I've read Clover. And I've read, I've watched Tsubasa, and I've watched Holic. I know Tsubasa's famous for being just like the worst mess of them all. because that's when they're really like, oh, we're going to reference everything and crossover with Holic like directly, but then also, oh my god, yeah. So, yeah, it was a time. It was a ride. Oh, I've also read the first like that first half or whatever of Magic Knight Rayearth. So I've read some of that. Um but yeah, like Legal Drug is not their most famous work. It's I don't think ever going to be for a lot of reasons, but it's solid at what it does for being like a monster or mystery of the week. Except for don't expect any of the actual mysteries pertaining to our characters to ever be exposed or, told, shown, revealed, solved. That's the word. Um, the next one I think I have to read is Rig Veda. Yeah, I haven't seen or read Showbits. I know the new like fancy edition is out, and that's cool. That's exciting. They've also got the fancy edition for Rayearth, Cardcaptor Sakura. The other one, Wish. Did Wish get a fancy one, or it got like a thing? I don't know. I don't keep up with a lot of Clamp stuff for obvious reasons. um, but I don't hate their work, and I'm willing to read it if I don't have to buy it, which is thankful because a lot of libraries have it because they are very popular and they're very prolific. They put out a lot of stuff. But yeah, I know that a lot of people enjoy different parts of the Clampverse for different reasons. I also want to read X, or watch X at least, and Tokyo Babylon and all of that, because I feel like their earlier stuff is less like, oh, look at all the references we can put in, and more just like, how gay can we make this? But yeah. So thank you guys for surviving my breakdown there. I hope everyone enjoyed. Thank you for sticking around. I hope that was interesting. I know there was a lot of books there, a lot of very different variation. I know not everybody is necessarily that interested in novels, especially because this is generally a manga focused channel. But I did want to talk about them because it encourages me to read them, for one. But also, you know. But yeah, thank you guys so much. This was a longer one than last week, but that makes sense because there's like double the amount of books, so I had more to talk about. But I hope this was okay for everyone. I hope you enjoyed yourselves, whether that be watching me lose my mind or just having a good time in the comments. It looks like everyone's having fun, so I really appreciate it. I know I don't always get like huge number of people watching these when I stream them, but as always, this will be available to watch from the very beginning. I will always keep them available on my channel. I'm never going to delete them, because I know that it might not be a convenient time for everyone. It's okay for me because I don't do anything at night. I mean, that's kind of sad. My Saturday nights are always free to talk to you guys, but hey, I'm talking to friends, so that's fine. But I'm glad that everyone enjoyed themselves. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to next week. Who knows what I'll have read there then. Oh my god, Clamp has melted my brain. Yeah, I don't know when. It'll be a surprise for us all. Probably more Boku SS, if nothing else. And I mean, I got more Discworld stuff to read, so I'll probably be talking about one of those. And I got other books to read, so. Oh, and some couple manga have finished, so I can like finish them or read them in their entirety. So that'll be good. I might be talking about Silver Spoon actually next week. Yeah, because I have the last 4 or 5 volumes to read for that because I just got the last one. Yay! And yeah, so thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you popping in, and I'm still kind of finding my footing with the live streaming, trying to not make them too long, but also enjoyable and interactive with you guys. And let me know as well if there's like a recommendation that you want me to read, if I can find it, whether that be like novel or manga or light novel as well. I want to try and read a light novel this week because that's something I haven't been able to do the last 2 weeks. But yeah, it makes me really happy that everyone seems to enjoy these. Let's keep this energy up. Maybe not the clamp energy, but the other energy. Let's keep that one up. But yeah, so it is 11:30 my time. I gotta get ready to go to bed. I gotta wash my face, put some pajamas on, go to sleep. Well, probably read and then go to sleep. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video, which may be the next one of these, maybe a first impressions video. Whatever, we'll see. Who has a schedule in this channel? Not me. I don't. I have no idea what I'm doing. But yeah, thanks guys.